Namaskar. Welcome to this new episode of Travel World Online. Today, we have Mr. M P Bezbarua, the most respected bureaucrat in tourism industry. Welcome, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this event for yours. Thank you.
Sir, you had been on tourism industry for so long in different capacities. You had a illustrious career in tourism, especially in tourism, besides others. So please walk us through your journey.
Well, being a bureaucrat, you do a lot of things. And I belong to Assam and Meghalaya cadre of the IAS. And somehow tourism has been with me in many capacities. When Meghalaya was formed in 1971-72, even before this state had come into being, I was in Meghalaya. And I was the first director of tourism of Meghalaya. We had set up the Department of Tourism. And later on, when I came to the Planning Commission as principal advisor, one of the charges I had was tourism and transport. And I had a fascination for this subject from then onwards, but later on it became a passion for me. When I joined as secretary in the Ministry of Tourism for 5 years, I think this is the longest serving tourism secretary of Government of India. But that apart, I had the opportunity of being associated with almost all the tourism, international tourism organizations. For example, even WTO, World Tourism Organization, not only have they made me their permanent representative in the honorary capacity, I was also their strategic group, in their strategic group for 5 years as in my personal capacity, not as Secretary Tourism. PATA International was kind enough to elect me as their chairman. And I have been very, very lucky and fortunate in being part of this very, very important sector of tourism.
Sir, which has been the most fulfilling service during all this period, or the
Now,
department?
if you are talking about tourism itself,
Yes, sir.
I think as secretary in the Ministry of Tourism has been a very rewarding and also a very learning experience for me. It was at a time when tourism, we had a lot of complaints that tourism was not getting due attention. And my first job was to create that awareness about tourism among the government departments and among public awareness. We had started many publicity campaigns. If you would remember some of them, tourism touches everyone, that sort of campaigns, both in newspaper and videos we had done. And what we had started doing is that we had to get the attention of the policymakers at the top level. So I started what you call the Tourism Ministers Conference every year. One specific importance of that conference was that all the state ministers used to come. And I must say, both our 2 years tourism conference was addressed by Prime Minister Mr. Bezbarua.
Oh.
And along with him, the finance minister, chairman, the deputy chairman, the planning commission, everyone came, and tourism became a talking point. And I'm so grateful that the prime minister did release my first book on tourism, which is called Indian Tourism. And so that was a great experience. And we started taking certain steps which were primarily to say that tourism is important, give that importance to tourism. So my period was, perhaps I look back, it was a period mostly of laying the foundation for future things. For example, in 1999, I started this idea that we must have visa on arrival. That was quite ahead of time. And the other ministries like Home Ministry and External Affairs Ministry, they were supportive, but they still had reservations. Ultimately, the cabinet committee of officers did approve that one. And we would have started, but unfortunately, 2000, that 9/11 happened. And so it got. So I'm just giving an example. So we started, we also had the vision that tourism marketing and promotion must be led by the private sector. So we got hold of the top players like the hospitality group, Oberoi's, Tata's, and all of them to agree to create what we used to call Experience India, that they were giving a 0.05% of their foreign exchange earnings, which will be used for marketing of India. That was the beginning of thinking about how to go about.
Of the
And I'm so glad that Amitabh Kant carried on that tradition, and he created that incredible India later on. So my period witnessed a lot of founding. That is my greatest pleasure, that I did start a lot of things which is now taking shape.
You laid a strong foundation for tourism to come.
That's for the people to judge,
Yeah.
but I think I tried to understand what is the basic problem.
So on a personal note, if you would have been a bureaucrat, what you would have been?
If I never wanted to be a bureaucrat. Since you are asking me, let me say that it is by, like your life is shaped by coincidences. People call it luck or whatever it is. Coincidences in my life brought me to IAS. I wanted to be an academician, and I had all the credentials because I was had good records, and I was planning to go to academics. But some personal problems, and I appeared for the exam and I got into, so I could not get out of it. But I enjoyed every moment of my uh, long journey, and the greatest satisfaction has been get the love and affection of the people that I had served. For example, in the districts that I had served, tremendous problems we had, but still people call me up to say that we remember you. That is the greatest satisfaction you can have.
So, the first tourism policy committee was a part of it. What was the main recommendation at that time? And, there's always a tussle between the political bosses and the bureaucrats. What's your take on that, sir?
If you are talking about tourism policy,
So,
you see the first policy was in 1982 only, and you can imagine 1960s somehow this tourism department was created. And if you look at, I have written in my book also, if you look at plan, 5-year plans, which were the policy directives of the government, which showed how the government is thinking of the future and all, had no mention of tourism as such till about the seventh plan. And on the seventh and eighth plan, the broad directions were given how tourism can create employment, how tourism can do inclusive growth and all that. And at that time, tourism was not much of a great. In 1982 policy, and earlier also when Prime Minister Nehru used to talk about tourism, the whole idea was that it's a force for creating international understanding. It's a very important requirement for India for foreign exchange earnings, and also that we have tremendous potential of tourism, which can give people to know each other. That was the broad, philosophical background about tourism policy in the beginning. And then we had, in 1992, we had aimed that in 5 years' time, we will have 1% of the international tourist arrival to our country, which did not happen. The action plans remained unimplemented. So by the time that 1997, I was in the ministry, we tried to, you know, see that those policy and action plans were implemented, and we crossed a million tourists only much later. So it has been it's been a, and moreover, in 1987, 88, if you remember, the first National Committee on Tourism, UNIS committee was, Muhammad Yunus, was, they had given a report. It's a very, very extensive report and a very good report. And that report had a few fundamental recommendations. I personally agreed with them, and I wanted to carry it forward. One of the recommendations was that tourism should be led by the private sector, and therefore we should have tourism board, a national tourism board, which will be the accountable professional organization for management of tourism, which has not happened till today. And there are lots of other recommendations, but uh, mm, coming forward, I would say that just now tourism has a great advantage in that for the first time I have seen tourism is led from the top. We have the greatest brand ambassador for tourism in the Prime Minister of India.
True, true,
So
very true.
that is a very plus factor which the tourism industry and the ministry should take advantage of.
So you was on a position as a Secretary Tourism Government of India. And as a secretary, you wanted to implement a lot of things. So what were the major roadblocks to implement those things, honestly? I
You
mean,
see, as I said, the general understanding, the tourism is a multidimensional activity. It actual tourism, things that make tourism happen are not all under the Ministry of Tourism, like aviation, like roads, and all those creating tourism destinations. All those things are handled by someone else. So my greatest hurdle was in getting to convince the people who make those things uh, to do what is good for tourism. For example, when I had talked about visa on arrival, and I was asked by the finance ministry discussions. I'm not a complaint as such, but then the understanding said that supposing we allow you these facilities, can you assure that you will have 10% growth in tourism arrivals? So my reply was that these are all factors which facilitate the entire process of tourism growth. You cannot say that if you give visa on arrival, you will have 10% growth. Now you cannot. It is not a factory production tourism,
true.
and that is a tourism. What is happening today, I am very happy about is that the 2023 budget speech, finance minister talked about one or two very important things. One was convergence, that all the different ministries must converge in making tourism happen.
Happen.
And I think that is a great message, and that's a great right approach. We don't have a tourism policy for last 23 years. And I tried a tourism policy in 1997, and ultimately the policy came in 2002. It takes time. From 2002, we don't have a policy, but some policy directions are coming from the Prime Minister, from the Finance Minister, from the Tourism Ministers talking. They are in the right directions, I feel, and I feel very optimistic about tourism. There are lots of problems, but very optimistic about the approach. The Minister of Tourism has recently said that tourism policy will be thinking about it, but the more important thing is implementation. And the Prime Minister has said that we have talked about what needs to be done, now roll out the roadmap. That, I think, is the focus.
Very true. Sir, very important thing. All tourism boards and ministries, they goes to different countries for networking, for WTM, for ITB, for FITOR and all other things. Last moment, they don't get permissions. Generally, they don't get permission until last moment. When you go abroad for a meeting, you need to fix up appointments well early, right? When you get the permission at the last moment, you won't be able to do what you want to. Second, I'm making a policy for a state, as a bureaucrat say, and I don't know how long I'll stay there. So people don't make policies for long run, and tourism is all about long term policies. Do you think there should be a time slot for a bureaucrat in tourism, especially, say for 5 years, as you rightly said? You need at least 5 years to make long term policies. What's your take on that, sir?
Well, generally, stability of the policymakers is very, very important. And mm, but I don't think from bureaucratic uh, management of the entire bureaucracy, it is possible to fix term as such. But the government do fix terms. For example, there used to be fixed terms for the key functionaries like, say, Home Secretary, Defense Secretary, and some other secretaries. Not to say that some secretaries are more important than others, but the point is that yes, it is a very good idea that normally government should think that the Secretary Tourism is so selected, I mean, in the states or everywhere else, that he or she can spend at least 3 years in that department. Otherwise, it becomes, by the time you get into doing something, you have to leave. It's a very good idea that government should try to. It does not work out always, but if the intention is there, perhaps it will be very
So
good.
unless they prove otherwise,
Yes,
unless you are not able to fulfill your
yes,
duties,
other circumstances, because it is always in public interest.
100%
And but then,
agree.
yeah, that's a very good idea, I think so.
So, what are the major points you think today when we talk of PPP? We are talking since long for PPP modes. When it comes to associations, do you think, as you rightly said, there is a need of a tourism board for National Tourism Board? What do you think how this can come in existence? What all needs to be done for this? And what are the major roadblocks for this?
I have been even today, so far, as you know, I am also associated with various organizations, and one of them is the Hotel Association of India. And personally, I have been always advocating that when we talk about public-private partnership, it should be systemic in the sense that there should be some system whereby the government and the public key people in the private sector could meet formally and regularly, and they could take decisions and monitor the decisions taken. I think that has not happened. Our PPP has been mostly ad hoc, in, in spite of the fact that tourism is primarily private sector driven. So I think there is need for uh, some such systematic organizational arrangement. I'm very happy to say that the the draft tourism policy, which has been in circulation from 2015 onwards, have mentioned this one, and they have recommended uh, some form of an interaction between the government and the private sector in a regular and systemic manner. This is one very, very important factor for promotion of tourism in future. Now we have got some platform, but again, these platforms are like we have got the organization like FATE, which is all the associations are coming there, and FATE and the government do interact. Similarly, CII, SOCHAM, FED, FICI, etc. But it is more, my personal feeling is that we should make it a part of the entire process of tourism governance and not ad hoc.
100% true, sir. Very important thing. When we talk, center gives a lot of money, funding to state tourism boards, right? We have got different associations like SOCHM and other ICC bodies in the states. When you are giving fundings, that can be monitored because it's in the interest of the nation with the help of these bodies. Do you think something of this kind of a mechanism can come in existence?
It can. It is. I think it will come, and slowly the realization has come, and I think the good partnership that exists between the private sector and the government, insofar as tourism is concerned, will be formalized in some form. And two things I think are very essential, that, as I said, convergence, and for that, something of a board in the state level under the chairmanship of the chief minister and with the concerned ministries, and also another organization where the private sector is involved. So maybe advisory board or consultative board would be very useful. Some states do have that, not all, and many states do have them in form but not in substance. So we have to give substance to that.
True. So tourism is all about tourism, culture, and aviation, right? But you don't find sync in between these ministries at most of the times.
It
What could be a
is.
solution?
It always happens at the personal level. Should not be. It should be, again, as I said, it should be something like a system whereby all these three, four agencies should be together. Now, I would say that, for example, uh, we have the Gati Shakti now for roads.
True.
Now, when I talk about the Northeast, which is my another passion, apart from tourism, I belong to Northeast. Uh, Northeast is primarily road travel.
True.
Now, what we don't see is that sometimes there are good uh, places or tourism attractions, but the Gati Shakti is going on the national highway and the main roads. The last minute connectivity on the Gati Shakti could be so done that integrate tourism into the national planning of roads and civil aviation. Similarly, Udan scheme is a fantastic idea for the Northeast. We have to see how to make it effective. See, the airports have to be functional, the flights have to be regular, and the facilities should be available for the intending tourists. Then Udan can change travels and tourism in remote and inaccessible areas. And this is becoming very important, for another reason. Unless we change our uh, dependence on 5 or 6 states getting 60% of the tourist arrivals, uh, tourism promotion will go into what other countries are doing now, over tourism.
True.
Now, if that happens, the only way out is to expand to areas that we have, beautiful areas. And Udan can do that, Gati Shakti can do that. That's why all of them have to be together.
True. So very important. Another important point is when we spend money outside country to promote. Now, government have got funds because I remember 1998 Nepal started the Visit Nepal year, and what they have done is the government had put a certain amount in a kitty, and they asked private partners to put their kitty into that, and then they took the lead and promoted the tourism to the world. So, can we do something on the same lines in India, where private sector should take the lead to promote India, and government should participate in that and put their might behind their efforts.
Yes, I think, as I said, the Experience India was that concept. Experience India was a fund created by the private sector. It was created by, Oberoi's and Tata's and Tata's Group and other many ITC and all. And that concept is still valid, and that can be built into Experience India and Incredible India can be joined together in some form, and the private sector funding can be also available. Their initiative can be available. What promotion, for example, our hotels do abroad can be also part of our Incredible India campaign.
Campaign.
So that is possible and desirable to my mind, and can be done.
Yeah, sir, because who knows better than them who are marketing it themselves? They know better.
Yes,
What they are looking for, from where they need
I agree. I
good stuff.
agree that this, uh, these are suggestions and ideas which need to be looked into and developed. When you start something, you may not be perfect,
True.
and as you go along, you learn from
It's a learning
experience.
experience, sir.
Yeah, but the concept, I think, is a good concept of PPP.
So sustainable tourism is another important part of it, right? podcast interview. What are the main points or your advice for tourism to go globally?
Tourism to go globally for India
So,
it has been always our primary objective,
cool. Yeah.
and to attract tourists from different countries. And what we need to do now is perhaps that see the concept, the whole atmosphere has changed. That today our international tourism arrivals has not been keeping pace. I mean, primarily because of the halt that was COVID, and then we have the international geopolitical situation, uncertainties, and many factors. Uh, we need to project India. India's strength, economic strength, will attract a lot of business travels. MICE and business travels is going to be very, very important. And I think that's a good area to concentrate on, because that will give you good value for money, will get good money. At the same time, it's a high value, less uh, impact tourism. So that is what we have to look for, because we have got, you can see the pressure of 2,500 million domestic visits, not number of tourists, but visits. That's a great, great, that is sustaining Indian tourism today. But we need foreign exchange, we need international understanding and people to come. I expected that the groundwork that was laid by G20 would pave that way of international tourism arrivals to India. Unfortunately, it has not happened, because G20 countries, as you know, get we is our main source market. About 50 to 60% of the Indian inbound tourists come from the G20 countries, and we had such excellent exposure and commitment during the G20 conference here. I think that is the area where we have to concentrate on, because we have already built that relationship. We have already exposed our attractions to them. So I think we should start there to get the people from outside to our country. And they will be our ambassadors for spreading India's uh, importance. But most important thing is that India is economically now stable, growing, one of the largest growing uh, economies in the world, and our outbound is going to be quite heavy. What we need is very strong civil aviation reforms, not reforms as such, but also
Great.
development of airports. Otherwise, the air is going to be crowded, prices going to high, and that will be a deterrent factor. And the people do travel, and they are very cost conscious. And Southeast Asian countries are attracting mainly because of cost.
Sure.
We may have doubts, we may have debates about whether that is the right way to go. My personal feeling is that the right way is firstly sustainable, secondly, the importance of technology in creating excellence in services, and thirdly, I think the consumer satisfaction. So we must have sustainable tourism. And for that, we need to create more destinations. Government is talking about 50 destinations. I think that is a very conservative approach, because 50 is nothing for a country like India. There, each state or UT can do two or three in 5 years' time. That will give you 100
Sure.
almost. So I think the future is going to be on sustainability. 60 to 70% people of the travelers, many studies have shown, consider sustainability of the places they are visiting to be one of the major factors in decision making. So I think the future of tourism is for sustainable growth, sustainable, inclusive growth of tourism's role is enormous in creating employment, the multiplier effect. We go into many aspects. For example, even in hotels, you create a hotel in a rural area, you don't talk about the direct employment of each room giving two persons. That's a direct employment. Imagine the indirect supply side
Exactly.
impact on the entire economy, which cannot be captured in statistics. And that's why I think it doesn't get tourism doesn't get all the due attention that it should. But I think the future is that inclusive growth, sustainable growth, technology-led growth, these are going to shape the future.
So 7,500 kilometers of shores,
Coastline.
coastline. India is country of rivers. How do you see this cruising in India? And
Cruising has a great potential, but cruising of the international cruise liners, that's a very, very important area. But yes, it has got its plus and minus both. Uh, some people say that cruise do not give you that much of income to the people, in the sense that many of them depend on the ship itself for eating or staying. They just come and see and go back. Now, those things apart, that's a great opportunity, and that can be manufactured in a way that is advantageous to us. So far as river tourism is concerned, Northeast, for example, has tremendous potential. And we have not explored the river tourism to the extent that we can.
true,
That's my personal feeling. Both in Northeast, on all the rivers, even the Ganges and all, it's not as much of a, like, the cruise in Thames or the cruise in Nile, etc. Those are part of the any tourist itinerary.
true.
It is not so far as in
In
India is
India,
concerned.
yes.
There is tremendous potential by mind.
So before closing it, I've got my personal gut feeling is, if we really want to promote India, each and every person has to be a brand ambassador for India. That's what the Prime Minister says about the Indians staying abroad. What's your take on that, sir?
I mean, you are talking about
Individuals,
going out or individuals in India?
individuals in India and
Absolutely,
anywhere in the world, wherever you
absolutely,
are, being
absolutely,
an Indian, you have to be a brand ambassador for India
absolutely. Because
with your talks, with your deeds, with your acts.
yes, yes. You see, the most important part of tourism is that we used to say welcome and welcome back in Indian tourism.
True,
That's a slogan. That is India's
true
hospitality, Atithi
hospitality.
Devo Bhava and all. But is it Atithi Devo Bhava really? That is the question we have to ask ourselves. As the Prime Minister did that campaign of Swachh Bharat, I think that is only the beginning. We have to carry it forward to many other things, uh, like cleanliness, like use of plastics and other things also, and how we treat our foreigners and the tourists rather. I think each person uh, is a symbol of India that the tourists carry.
True,
Now, the bad experience will create more damage than 100 crores of investment you do in marketing.
true,
Uh, we had many campaigns. If you remember, we had started training up the taxi drivers.
yeah,
Now, that's the first impact. Yeah.
true.
And that's very important. People may think that how can you train up the taxi drivers and all. No, but campaign can really touch them. And most people may be very good, very well, but one or two bad things create problem.
But true.
I believe that the areas where you really come in touch with the tourist, particularly, we should start these campaigns.
So tourism should be a subject in higher schools,
Well, you see,
at least basics of tourism and
see
what tourism is all about, how this is going to impact everyone's life. And economy?
I had been personally advocating for a different type of subject, in the sense that if you make a subject, it becomes a little hackneyed and little rigorous sort of thing. Instead of that, the if your general studies, you build in the stories and the examples of tourism related things in an interesting way, the students will find interest in that. But instead of that, if you try to teach them that you do like this, you don't do like this, I think that becomes a good thing, but not necessary.
In some form, we
Yeah,
should.
some form, I think this should would be good. But primarily, that importance of projecting India, pride in India, our great resources, awareness about our great resources, storytelling. We are very poor in storytelling.
Very true.
Even the students should know their own stories, mythology, stories, and all history. Now, those can be the students could be the assets for our future. I think, in some form, yes, they should be sort of sensitized about the tourism.
Thank you very much talking to Travel World Online, sir.
It's a pleasure, great
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
I keep
Thank you,
on
everyone.
with all these experiences and all. You keep on rambling sometimes, but
Sure.
I hope it was not all irrelevant.
Yeah, see, tourism is such a subject which is always relevant, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
You are watching Travel World Online.